And we are live, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Graders Notes. I think we have a challenging comic tonight. I think we have one that's going to be a little bit controversial, perhaps. It's going to be a little difficult to grade, but I think this team is up to the challenge. We are also going to be talking about a giveaway that we're going to be putting on. But before I do that, let me call in two of the three other graders out there. Genome may be a little bit late, okay? He was caught out in the rain on his motorcycle, and so he's speeding at probably warp speed over to his house, ready to put on the computer. But I told him to keep it under warp 9. Okay, so because, it's not safe. So let's bring in this esteemed panel. And then we're going to talk about this great chat as well. All right, first off, we have the greatest pinch hitter in the game. Now, I mean, I'm telling you, this man, if why he's not, front line on another show, I don't know. Okay, because he is amazing. He is the uncanny, the unctuous, Unruly Simian. Welcome, my friend.
What's up, y'all? Hey, I'm glad you picked this book, Raj. I'm a huge SF fan, always have been. I mean, I literally cut my teeth on it. My old man is a huge reader, and he passed it on to me and my brothers. When my stepmom married into the family when I was like 13, she put up with it for like a week, right? Because me and my dad and my brother would be sitting at the dinner table eating a book, just reading.
Cool.
And finally she came in one night and snatched all our books up and said, "No more."
Oh, man.
But SF has always been my love. I started off on the classics, and I read anyone that's good today. So I love these kind of comics. I really love the EC science fiction when I got the reprints in the 70s.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think we'll talk about that a little bit here in a bit. But I remember that there were two books and the chat picked this one. But I am also glad they picked this one. Really, I had this one as the lone choice, but I always like the chat to pick because I don't want this to think it's a dictatorship, you know what I mean? So I too am glad. And we'll be talking about it a little bit. But let's bring in the third member of this quartet, hopefully quartet, one of the most beloved men in the community, as like Unruly, very giving, very generous of his time and his comics. Not only is he a cornerstone of this show, but of the Mega Power Hour with Biggie. He's on with seemingly everybody at one point or another. None other than the compelling and the compassionate ComicHead 84. Welcome, my friend.
What's up, man? What an introduction, man. Always happy to be here. Like Roger said, a very controversial edition, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of intrigue, a lot of controversy. And Unruly Simian's in the house, dude. It's a special edition. So, I'm just humbled to be here with these two guys. I'd never heard of this title before that we're covering tonight. But I'm glad that I'm up on it now. I'm glad I read it. Very interesting stuff. It's going to be an interesting grade, that's for sure. It's a grade.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Genome is the brainchild of this this particular show.
Yeah.
And when he asked me here into this show, I go, "Are you sure you want me on this show?"
Yeah, because you totally threw a wrench into the formula tonight.
Because if you guys see my channel, I kind of venture far away from the well-lit path. You know what I mean? So you're going to get some comics that most people haven't read or didn't know about. And let me tell you, I have got a plethora of them. But again, I will do the same thing I do. I'll give two and I'll let the chat decide. But that's the way I roll. I don't do the keys. I don't do the big, I do like the big events, but only, when they're personal to me. But sci-fi is the order of the day today, gentlemen. And I again, we talked about Unruly a little bit. Kenny, what's your experience with sci-fi? I want to know what kind of history you have, if any, with the sci-fi genre.
That's a good question. So me and my brother used to watch the heck out of some Star Trek Next Generation. That was my jam. Worf, the Klingon, was my favorite character with the Batla. Dude, I used to really want to buy like a real life Batla weapon. So yeah, that was big. I gotta say, I'm not like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even seen all the movies. I know it has a rabid fan base, and I'm just casually aware of Star Wars, and I know that's one of like a real pillar sci-fi property for a lot of people. So I'm out the loop on that. I'm not sure of like other go-to sci-fi stuff, but I dig it because you know what I find about sci-fi stories is like sci-fi, which is out like all the stories generally are taking place in the concepts of like outer space, aliens, but sci-fi stories tend to be the ones with the most that tell the most like human life lesson stories. I found, they're very slick. I feel like that's a very common thread in most sci-fi, and it reflects in this stuff we're covering tonight too. It's always like really for something that always takes place off Earth. It's very like always a satire, a commentary on Earth and humanity. So that's a cool trait of sci-fi, I think.
Yeah, very, very well put, and little analysis there of your history and what you know about sci-fi. Now, you said Star Wars, and this is a point of contention with a lot of people, right? Because to me, Star Wars is not true sci-fi. Okay? That is spaghetti western in space. All right, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to make enemies today. We're going to keep it positive. We're going to keep it upbeat. Okay, but you can't. I know Unruly will agree with me. You can't beat H.G. Wells. You can't beat the masters. Of that went through and actually looked at the science aspects of their novels. H.G. Wells, my gosh, he is so good at doing that, of actually introducing science. And like you said, through those novels, you see, horror preys on our fears. Science fiction preys upon our possible futures and successes. And which ones are scarier? I'll leave those up to you. Well, it looks like we have been honored by getting finally through the warp speed of that bike, right? If you saw his review on Nightmare on Elm Street, what was it? It was a Dream Child. You saw that motorcycle that sort of took over the human. Well, that's probably what occurred, but Genome is much stronger than any Freddy. So he made it all the way here to Grader's Notes, folks. First of all, let me put this down here. Okay, so let's introduce again the brainchild of Grader's Notes. I'm so glad he made it in time because it is not the same without the genial and genius of Genome Presents. Welcome, my friend.
Man, such effusive praise. What am I supposed to say to all that? Thanks. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, Freddy ain't got nothing on the pythons, that's for sure. So
I knew that. I knew he didn't stand a chance with you, but I know he didn't stand a chance.
Where's the Canuck?
Where's the Canuck? Well, he probably had some igloos to build. He's probably getting his supplies ready for winter. He's got that elk fat. Probably placed in strategic places around the home.
Yeah, he's somewhere skinning a moose or something.
Yeah, he's fighting. He's probably practicing with, bear wrestling. They're coming in, before hibernation. So, but we love him, that. And in fact, Genome, I'm glad that you mentioned him because a little while ago he got to 1,000 subscribers, and we had a little impromptu stream on Kenny's channel, celebrating and getting him there. We were very close, and he was there, I think, later that night or early the next day.
Yeah.
And in there, we mentioned that we would be having a very special giveaway. All right. So everybody in the chat, your ears are propped up because listen to this.
Giveaway time.
Giveaway time. So this is what's going to happen. This is essentially 2 giveaways in one. All right. What we're going to do is ask you to make a short video of your favorite comic or your least favorite comic, any comic you want, and give it the grader's notes treatment. Okay. So we want to know what your grade is and your little synopsises of the cover, the story, the interior art, the concept, and the overall grade. You can make this in 2 minutes, or you can make this in 10 minutes, 20, whatever you want. I think you can probably make it in like 5. Give it a minute each category, right? Leave a link, or actually not a link because they closed that off. Just tell me below that you did a video entry, and I will pass it on to the rest of the graders notes. We're going to meet the day before the next graders notes in 14 days, and we're going to pick a winner out of I'm sure, the multitude of entries that we're going to be getting. And then what is the prize, you may ask? The main prize is that you get to be, a month hence from today, one of the graders on this very show.
Yeah.
And you get to pick the comic that we are going to grade. Now remember, it has to be like $10 or below. You know, don't give me, you know, something that we can't find, or if it has a facsimile, that's fine. You will be our esteemed guest. We will roll out the red carpet. We will throw only softballs at you. Okay, we will be super nice. I will talk to Mr. Miracle. I'll muzzle him if necessary. Don't worry. And we're going to do a comic of your choice, and all 5 of us will be on here doing that. Not only do you get that, okay, but a few of us have prize packages that we put together for Mr. Miracle's 1000 celebration stream that have yet gone shall we say, unpackaged, right? You get to pick whichever package you want, whether it be mine or Kenny's. I don't know if Genome has one, or Mr. Miracle's. And you take home that package, okay? And all the treasures therein. Okay?
Yeah.
So not only do you get to hang out with the boys here, you get a really amazing prize package, and you will live in infamy as the first ever winner of the Graders Notes participation contest.
Heck yeah.
I will leave all the details in the description once this video, this live stream is over. Okay, so starting tomorrow, look at Genome passing all the goodies that he has in his package. Starting tomorrow, I'm thinking and making a video for Graders Notes. All right, and once again, you will be. It's almost like meeting the Queen. You know, it's that high of an honor. But again, we want to thank all of you, first of all, for your support throughout the. We've been doing this for over a year now. You guys are the best chat in the business. You guys keep us motivated. You guys keep us in stitches. You guys, with your knowledge, really, really make a difference in our ability to do this show as well as it has come out. So, Kenny, will you do me a favor? Because my voice is a little cracking. I'm going to go get some water. Could you shout out this great chat?
Oh, man.
And I will be back in about 2 minutes. Okay?
Absolutely. This chat is stacked and jacked of 25 of, you know, some of the brightest minds. I feel like a lot of the brightest minds in the community tune in to Graders Notes, man. First in the scene was, well, I'm actually going to put this on live chat to make sure I don't miss anybody. But, you know, Biggie Shack was in the house. Blue Wrenching It. Mark Knapp, 68, man, in the house. The lovable headbanger of the community, man. Mark Knapp, shout out to you. Jackson Roykirk, who was killing it early on in the chat. Happy to see you, man. Another faithful fan of the Graders Notes. I love Disney and comics in the house, who has made it clear that if they win, they want to put Human Fly on the
Oh, jeez.
up on the stage. I think they want to see, the ruthless side of Metarog for the first time.
Oh yeah, you gotta see him off screen. Yeah, that's something.
Magic Lasso in the chat, holding it down. Stone Cold Steve Whiting's in here, who did a great appearance on the Biggie Shack Community Spotlight show earlier. You got to catch that. DS Comics, Golden Age Extraordinaire, Comic Presser Extraordinaire, Unruly Simian, of course, holding it down. Maybe one of the top all-stars of this chat that watches is Tim the Comic Collector. And he had a home run comment where he said, "Is it okay to give the kids NyQuil on Graders Notes night?"
Not only is it okay, it's actually preferred. Yes.
I love that comment. So good.
Tim.
Disclaimer: use NyQuil responsibly.
Use the kids version there, Tim. No alcohol, right?
Slim Comics and more. Silver Age Dave in the house. Comic Royalty. Adrian V Comics. K Titus. Konnichiwa to you. Scott 424. VM Campos with a really cool profile picture of that V. It was like a hockey stick. Is that a hockey logo?
Dude, K Titus has been everywhere, man.
Everywhere.
He is in like every video. He's always being real responsive.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Great supporter of this community. A fabulous supporter.
Louis Ramirez 504, which I think would mean he's a Florida guy, right? 504? Is that Florida?
No, I don't
No.
think so. Mm-mm.
504. Why have I heard 504?
No.
We have like 400 numbers
Anyway,
back in the day.
there was a rap group called the 504 Boys. I thought they were from Florida. Surf Blue is in the house,
Dave.
as is James Gallegos.
Good pronunciation there.
Yeah, I'm right on it. House till the end. Big Man Cave Comics, the cave dweller himself. Good to see you.
Hey, Barm. How you doing, buddy?
Spirit Comics in the house.
Hey, Michael.
And last but not least, sorry if I missed someone because I feel like my chat got a little wonky, but last but not least that I'm seeing, Super Russ 9000.
Russ.
Big Russ. What's going on, baby?
Thank you very much, Kenny, for that. I appreciate that. I don't know why, but my throat just went like clenched up there. All right. So we've already got the giveaway going. We've got the introductions going. We shouted out this great chat. Let's get rumbling now. Yeah. All right. Impression there. All right. So today, guys, we are tackling, like we said, a little bit of a controversial comic here. It is extra large, first of all, and it contains 8 stories, guys. So again, we didn't put any kind of sort of guidelines, but I had my own way of doing it. I did many graders notes for each story, and then I sort of averaged it together, and I came out with a grade. This was tough. I had to reread it because I was like, oh, is that the one with the religious guy? So it was a little bit tough to grade. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to tackle this sucker in 5 categories, from 1 to 5, or I guess 0 to 5 if it was just terrible, right? We're going to talk about the cover, okay? We're going to talk about the interior art. We're going to talk about the writing. We're going to talk about the concept of the comic, and then we're going to really just do a quick overall synopsis, all right? But you in the chat are the 5th grader. So after us 4 talking heads finish, you guys give us the input and let us know what the real grade is. And you don't have to, if you haven't read it, You can decide based on what we talk here, what is said, or you can abstain. It's up to you. But your opinion is valid no matter what. All right. So, anything else, gentlemen, before we get cracking?
Unleash it.
Unleash it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. So, let's get going first. I know Gino wants to go first on the writing, but we won't give him that pleasure. Let's go with the cover. All right. And because I am just feeling so magnanimous today, let's go to Kenny.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Let him start off.
Diagonal. I like it.
Let him start off on this amazing or perhaps mystifying cover. Kenny, what do you think about this little puppy?
Oh boy. So if you could do a little screen share of that. There we go. Let's see here, man. So you got me doing the cover here. And, I don't want to start out on a sour note, guys. But I was not particularly taken by the cover. Now, let me give the credit where it's due on the forms of the two figures drawn down there are really top shelf stuff. Like, I can't really qualm too much about the figure drawing there. I think the dude has like a really cool pose. I like the way his back is arching backwards as he's holding the gun. Cool muscle definition. The gal looking good. Body proportions cool. Like her back facing the reader is a little weird, but those forms are pluses. It's kind of everything else that didn't strike me too well. Like the Time Warp logo, not a huge fan. I guess it's more of a sum of its parts because I guess the logo on itself isn't terrible. And the drawings of the characters aren't terrible. I just find that for a comic book cover, it doesn't quite. I would imagine like if you're on the stands, to me anyway, it doesn't jump out to me as like a killer comic book cover. I do like that it says like science fiction that's across the top. I think that's like almost makes it give it that magazine feel. The green alien, like this doesn't accurately represent the story inside either, which I think is a miss. Like you have like 8 stories to choose from. You could have chose one and like accurately depicted it, because at no point do 2 characters like this go after the green monster. I think that's Smelly, the smelly monster, which that doesn't happen. So it's, I guess the more I like really pick apart the details, I'm like, okay, it's not terrible. There are. It's the sum of the parts thing for me, that it's decent artwork, but it's not a good execution of a comic book cover, in my humble opinion. I went a little under average and serviceable. I gave it a 2, man. It just didn't hit me right here where I wanted to be hit. I think with all the concepts going on in this book, you could have really hit a home run on this, and you know what I'm saying? I felt unenthused about the cover.
Unenthused.
Yeah.
Is the word of the day when it comes to the cover for Kenny. Unenthused.
Yeah.
Dude. Wow. Pretty harsh to start out there, Kennedy. But again, I applaud the courage and and the compassion in which you stated the abhorrence of that cover. I really do appreciate that. All right, so let's go on to the next grader of the cover and see if he believes that also the horror goes beyond just what's inside the book, that it's actually on the outside of the book. Mr. Simian, I would like your take on the cover of Time Warp 1.
All right, well, let me start off by saying that there's probably no greater Kaluta fan on the face of the earth. when the Shadow came out in the early 70s, I gobbled it up purely for the artwork. The stories were okay, typical Shadow pulp fare. I mean, I think Denny O'Neil wrote it, and he didn't try and stray too far outside of the boundaries of the character, but the artwork was just gorgeous. And then Kaluta did this brilliant thing called Starstruck in the 80s. It ran in Epic, Heavy Metal, and then it got a miniseries under the Epic imprint, and then it's ran a couple more issues, hit and miss here and there. And I gobbled it up. It's probably the premier postmodern comic that's ever been attempted, and his artwork is brilliant. And I say all that to say that I agree completely with my boy 84. This is not his best work, not by a long shot. The composition is just sloppy. I mean, Kaluta's a good artist. You can't hold back his pencils. But look at the profile of the space dude. That's just ugly. I don't know why he would picture that woman from behind like that. It's kind of off kilter. I don't like the coloring, although I doubt he had much to do with that. I'm very disappointed. Look at the dude's left arm. I mean, this is just far, far from being Kaluta's best work. I'm gonna agree with Kenny 100% and give it a 2, and I'm only giving it a 2 because it's Kaluta.
Vindication.
So you sure there's no collusion on Kaluta here?
You stole my joke. I was gonna throw that one out there.
Sorry about that, Genome. I guess great minds think alike anyway. Wow. I'm actually pretty shocked that from Unruly, because I knew he was a Kaluta fan. So I was pretty shocked about that. But hey, Graders Notes, we don't pull no punches. Even our favorites get knocked down when they're not up to snuff. And great stuff there, Unruly, on the Shadow. I totally agree. Starstruck, a very underrated series from the 80s. I think was that in the Epic line of Marvel?
It ran in Epic magazine and Heavy Metal magazine, and then it ran a 6-issue series under the Epic imprint.
Cool. Good stuff there, Sam.
Good old Epic.
Well, Genome, you're on the button, my friend.
All right.
Let us know what your impressions or depressions are about this cover.
Yeah, usually I'm the kind of the dissenting voice a lot of times in these shows, and I'm not going to break for tradition. I'm actually kind of surprised that we're all coming up with the same grade. I give this one a 2 as well. This reminds me of like old baseball card packs or something. This whole setup here is just odd, way too big up here. The banner's too big. Science fiction's cool, I guess, but it just, I don't know. I don't like this. Looks like it would be on the file cabinet of their files that they put away at the actual DC or whatever. They have to list every artist and creator in there. Also irks me. I don't like when they do that in covers in any era. I can appreciate what's going on here. This must have taken him a long time, dude. Just look at all the little ticks and squiggles and all that he's got in there. And you like my novelty shop, Mike? It's pretty good stuff, isn't it? But I don't like it. He's got this inverted concave like McFarlane face here, which I don't care for. The anatomy looks kind of wonky. As this is not a natural pose here. Even like she's sprinting forward or is she stationary? It looks like she's both at the same time. Doesn't work. It's just an odd angle. I can look past all that, but I just find it kind of ugly. The color scheme, once again, it's not Kaluta's fault, but I don't really care for that. And it's just too busy. This amorphous blob that they're fighting is just too busy for a cover. You want a cleaner look to the bad guy, something that's a little less amorphous and something that's a little more relatable as a bad guy, or at least a little farther away. But I mean, there's just tendrils of this guy everywhere. And while that's a cool concept, I don't think it's a good cover concept. This firearm doesn't look all that cool. What is it? A ray gun? Is it a flamethrower? What is that dang thing? It's got like 3 stocks. It's got scope that's obviously not being used. I mean, probably doesn't need it there. How he's holding it's kind of funky. Doesn't look too utilitarian. I just don't care for it. Like I would probably walk past this on a shelf. This retro, I do like this retro trade dress though. That's pretty sweet. I like that. As goofy as it is, I dig it. But just a quarter of the comic should not be this crap up here. I mean, I don't want to see that. And So yeah, best start for me is the trade dress. So I'm gonna give this one as 2 as well. I just it didn't blow my skirt up. I'm sorry.
Well, and now we know that Genome wears skirts. That's a good little nugget of information we didn't know before, now didn't we?
And didn't want to know either, did you?
No, I didn't. Hey, listen, it's the world we live in. Don't ask, don't tell, right? All right. So
That's what you say.
now
Yeah.
we've got a triumvirate of curmudgeons tonight, don't we, on the covers? Well, all right, that's fine and dandy. That's fine and dandy. I guess I'm up, gentlemen. So I will give you my opinion of it. I thought you guys were being just a little harsh on this cover. All right. First of all, you have to remember something, right? Science fiction comics like this, or like any, were rarities, hen's teeth, okay, during the Bronze Age. So the fact that we got anything was excitable, okay, was exciting to me, right? I do like the twisted three-dimensional look of that Time Warp logo. I wish it would have been perhaps a little bit more like science fiction-y, maybe have a little star field. In fact, where this black is here, I would have liked to have a star field there, not just a void there. I think that was a misstep. And the science fiction barbell up there was kind of like the usual boilerplate logo, and you would have other things here like specials, things like that. So I like the fact that it's science fiction because you knew that this was a science fiction comic, and all the creators up at the top there, that's kind of reminiscent to the pulps that had the creators, because the writers sold the pulps, right? You didn't really have the artists selling pulps because they were only inlaid art pieces. So I kind of like that aspect because it's kind of an homage to the pulp, shall we say. Now, that is sort of like an ancillary part of the cover. I like the little heat here. It's like electrified. I don't know if you can notice that. So it's got a little electrification field around it. And the fact that it says all new, because back then, we had a lot of these reprints like Strange Adventures, Mystery into Space, all that. But now these are actual news stories, and it was displayed on the cover as such, all right? And again, you got 8 there. Now, Unruly, you asked, why is this lady have her back to us? I think you know why this lady has her back to us. Okay? All right? That was, I'm guarantee you, on purpose. And I'm channeling Bub here, but I think it's pretty obvious that your eye kind of gravitates to that.
Tail light cover?
Tail light cover, right. Which, unfortunately, is sort of a portent of, hey, this cover was kind of not really, it didn't have a lot of effort behind it. So let's put a little flesh. Notice the bare midriff here of the lady. And, of course, the posterior view of the same lady. But I kind of agree with you guys said about the monster being kind of amorphous, and this whole cover is kind of wonky in that it seems to be shifted over to the right a bit. You see this desolate background here, but you kind of have only partial the monster. Why not show the whole monster, and put it maybe so that the monster is in the background and these guys a little bit shifted over, shooting toward the background, and they're in the foreground. So I think the layout is not ideal. But I actually think that for a science fiction cover, I think it's actually, I like the color scheme. It contrasts the green with the orange here of the lady and the yellow of the guy. We don't know that they're human. This might be the physical structure of some kind of alien. The gun is, of course, over the top. Again, science fiction tropes 101. All right. Ships have all inside or all for passengers. Where's the engine? Where's the fuel? You kind of have to suspend disbelief a little bit. Okay. So I think it's effective in conveying that is a science fiction comic. I like Kaluta's art. It's not his best, but I don't think it's below average either. I at least think that this is a tiny bit above average. Just because it relays the concept, if not the exact story inside, it's pretty close. And maybe he didn't even know what the story was. Maybe they gave him just a kind of a finger, sketch of what it could be, and he did his, the best he could with what he did. So for the impact of the cover and the effectiveness of it relaying the science fiction message, I give it a 3. Let me take myself off. There we go. So yeah, definitely not a masterpiece. Definitely not something that would be like, wow. But I think you guys were a little tough on Kaluta on this cover. All right.
You got to pass as it was your book. Could have gone lower.
All right. Maybe I'm home cooking. All right. So now that all our opinions are out of the way, let's go to the people who really know what they're talking about, the chat. So let us know, chat, what do you think of this cover? And this one you don't have to take a pass on because you saw the cover here. Kenny gave you a really good, digital view of it. Do you think it's somewhat effective? Do you think it is a total bomb, or do you think this is even better than what we think? Let us know while we chat amongst ourselves, shall we say.
Something else I noticed too, and sorry, my phone's ringing. Something else, I don't know if you guys noticed this, like around the muzzle flash there, is anyone else that has like really like extra shiny like look to it? It's like there's like a monochromatic or a chromatic freaking paint or something in there. It really catches in certain light. It's pretty wacky. It's the only spot that has it on the book. I just noticed that. I think it's pretty cool. It really, I have fluorescent lighting here, so it kind of really shows our LED lighting.
Yeah, as we know that heat has different lighting manifestations, white being the hottest and so on. So the outer looks to be the hottest and the interior warmer. So I guess that's kind of like what he tried to convey.
Yeah, the two figures are really, I think, drawn pretty well. And I think it makes that monster that they're attacking like that much more disappointing,
Mm-hmm.
That had, if it was like the identical cover, but a really well-drawn alien figure imposing in a cool attack shot,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have skewed my vote much higher. That amorphous blog, as you guys said, like really threw me off. It made it feel lazier maybe than it even was.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I didn't like I like the figures okay, and I like even the desolate scape there, but I don't like that black hole there, and the monster is. I'm looking at it, and I'm still not sure what kind of shape it is. So that's not good. I mean, I understand that there are in imaginations monsters that may not have a skeleton or whatever, but at least give us some kind of figure that we can figure out the parameters of it, not just some partial blob. It may be as big as this planet for all we know.
Yeah.
You don't know. This might be an appendage.
Right in the story called Monsters in there, had a great, that big orange monster. That would have been a great cover image with those two space, in those space suits with that big orange one.
Yeah.
That would have made a gnarly cover. But
we needed well-defined tentacles.
Yeah. Good point.
Oh man. All right, Kenny, you want to get the abacus ready there, buddy?
Oh yeah, of course. I had it right here, ready at the wing.
All right, because we got Biggie in here. Thank you for moderating, buddy. I appreciate it. We have the best moderators in the game right here on Metarock's channel. Let me tell you.
I saw some stuff got deleted there. I wasn't paying much attention, but
got deleted. If it got deleted, it must have been something pretty nasty. Okay, here we go. 2.5 by the Biggie himself. 2 by Steve Whiting. 2 by Jackson Roy Kirk. 4 by Scott Neely. 2 for House from House to the End. 3.5. It pulled me in. Okay, 2, 4, 4, 3, 2.5, 3, 4, and 2, and a 0.5 by Prowler. Ooh, harsh Prowler. What's up, Matt? How you doing? That's it, Kenny.
Okay.
all right, good participation. I like that.
Very good participation. Excellent.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. And the The chat seemed to land on 2.5.
Wow.
Oh, serviceable.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
Well, it's all a wash for us.
Yeah. Good job. Oh, yeah. Good job. Honestly, I can see that. I can see that. Okay. Brett Bottomley came in with a 3, but I don't think that would make much of a difference. But thank you for joining us, Brett. I appreciate you for stopping by.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Now that we got the cover out of the way, that was the easy one here, right?
Yeah.
That was the low-hanging fruit. That was the softball. That was the kid in the playground playing in the sandbox. No trouble there, right? Now let's get into the story. Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! This is going to be challenging and a half, but I know that you guys, out of everybody, are up to the task. Okay. So, Mr. Unruly Simian, you have the honor of setting the bar for the writing in this comic book. Give us your best shot at the Graders' Notes for the writing of this particular book.
Well, it had the typical format. Each of these stories is anywhere from like 3 to 6, 7 pages. And it with the twist ending, all your weird science and horror stories got to try and throw some kind of twist at you usually. The first story was written by Denny O'Neil, and it was pretty solid. I really enjoyed the last panel. The planet is frozen, so I'm going to carve out a path for new Adam and Eve. And he carves out the path, and it's magically populated with trees and grass. The second story by Fleischer was decent. When they get taken back to the planet of intelligent spiders, and by the way, the males get pregnant, and then we're gonna eat you when we're done with you, Earth women. Mona tried to run, but it's so hard to tear yourself away from a truly passionate, warm embrace. That was a good line. The next story, we had an awesome religious bigot, because who doesn't like to look down upon a religious bigot? Who was that by? George Cashdan. I'm not super familiar with him. It was serviceable. Then we get to Mike Barr, and I know Mike Barr, and this was my favorite story of the issue, was The Survivors, where you had a neat little O. Henry ending,
Nice.
Then the next one, Forecast by Jack C. Harris, with whom I'm vaguely familiar. Then comes the worst story of the book by far to me, The Monsters by Fleischer. Just cliche after cliche after cliche. Rescue by Bob Rozakis is decent, but a little, heavy-handed. But I did like the kind of little twist ending on that one. And The Man Who Could See Yesterday by Paul Levitz was pretty solid. It had a good perfect little Twilight Zone ending.
Nice.
For what it was at the time, Raj, I know you're stoked because there wasn't a whole lot of SF being published at this particular point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And what there was reprints. So I would have picked this up off the rack when it's 79, or was it 80?
It was 79, yeah, late 79.
I wasn't buying floppies back then, but if I would have been, I'd have picked it up, and I would have enjoyed it. But I'm just going to have to go serviceable. I'll give an average of the stories a 2.5 overall.
Excellent stuff, Mr. Simian. Excellent stuff. Yeah, I did pick this up off the rack, but I'll get to that later on when we talk about the concept and all that. Excellent. I think you did a really good synopsis there, succinct, and you gave everybody a little bit of a taste of what we had there in the story. And it's a mishmash. There's a big range there, as you stated there. Okay, Mr. Genome, are you ready for your rendition of What the Heck Is This?
As I'll ever be. All right, so full disclosure. The reason I was late, I was at a graduation ceremony that ran over, of course. So I meant to read the book right before the stream. I like to do it so it's fresh in my mind, and I didn't have time but read the very first story. So I can't really, in all fairness, grade the whole book. I can just kind of say what I liked about the first story and maybe kind of lean the grade toward that. But you might not even want to include my grade in the overall. I don't know. But first story was actually pretty interesting. It's another take on the last man on Earth kind of story, but this one's like the last family in orbit, So, but pretty cool, really cool story. I like the way this leads off. I think it really sets the tone for the book real well, and I would definitely want to keep reading more stories after this because the first one's it's a humdinger. You're looking at nothing less than the entire destruction of basically two races all in once on the Earth, and you're left with the final guy, the executioner, and like his wife and 2 children. Basically, is what happens. That's the last of humanity. But it's got a really cool twist ending, but you kind of see it coming. I mean, these things are pretty obvious to any science fiction writers or readers of old. So it's nothing too extraordinary, but I like the way they handled it. I like the characterization of the mad scientist, doctor, executioner. What would it do to you to kill everything? It might make you a cold bastard, and I can just see him being cold before that. So he's like the perfect person to pull the trigger. So I did like the first story. I thought it was pretty good. So if the other ones are as good, I would be happy. But like I said, I haven't read them, so I can't really grade it too well. I give the first story about 3.5. So whether that ties in with the rest of how everyone else sees it, that's probably where I'd leave it, about 3.5.
3.5.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you for your candor there. That's quite all right. We know that life gets in the way, and you have priorities, of course. And that's we're just glad to have you here. Okay, I'll go next. But man, I am so torn about this grade, first of all, because the stories are all over the place. They're all different writers. There might be, I think Fleischer did too, but they're all different creative teams, and they all have, a lot of different ways that they tell a story. Some of them are karma based, the old trope, right? That you do something bad, at the end you're going to get it. Then there's the twist, of fate, right? You think you know better than they do, and they knew better than you do, And then you have the ironies and things like that. But I'm going to tell you really quickly what I thought about the stories, very quickly. The first one I thought was a bit better than average. I kind of look at it like the main man that was there. He had a very black and white perception of things, and he thought the eradication of the Earth was better than it being enslaved. And over the years, I think his heart softened, and he grew as a person, and he realized that there's much more to life than just judging based on your morals, right? And he made it happen so that others can carry on, a sort of Adam and Eve starting over kind of story. The second one I thought was a little weaker. It's kind of a turn the tables on the person, on the women, who were taking advantage of men, ostensibly who they thought were men, and they were essentially trying to use them and then discard them. And again, what occurred was the exact same thing happening to them, except that in this case, they were killed after they mated with another species. So again, that's sort of a karma kind of story. I thought it was a little weaker. I thought it was very, tropish, shall we say. Now, I thought that the Righteous Ones was actually a really well written story. It is, like Simian was saying, a religious bigot, very judgmental, and it tells you the big dangers of being judgmental, and that's something that in my own life I have found out that you have to eradicate that. Discernment, yes. Judgment, no, because in this case, it cost him and his family his life. The next story, The Survivors, I thought was pretty solid. I gave this an above average grade. It's sort of a soulmate story that you can't base judgment or you're solely upon the physical appearance of the other person or being. You have to look at their motives, and you have to look at the emotional relationships they have before you can make such a judgment. And a solid story, actually, I thought. A little bit better than average. Forecast, I thought, was the weakest story. It's essentially a Twilight Zone kind of story where the invaders have a wrong perception of where they are in relation to and what's going on in relation to the Earth. So their ignorance and their lack of attention to detail essentially caused their doom. But I thought that was their weakest story. I saw that coming a million miles away. The monsters, I thought it was about an average story. It kind of followed a certain pattern. It did have a bit of a twist at the end. I give it credit for that, but nothing spectacular. It was average, kind of your consequences of not following or not understanding history. Then the next one, Rescue, a really ironic story. Actually, I kind of liked it because you have to be careful of your perspective of things, because sometimes your perspective, if that's the only thing you see, it can fail you, and others have the same perspective. And if they have the same perspective as you do, but on another level, it could cause your demise as well. So I thought that was a pretty cute little story. And lastly, the last one I thought was a strong story. The Man Who Could See Yesterday. The folly of trying to take advantage of somebody who can see the future. You think you can outthink them, and you forget that they can see what you're doing before you do it. He fell into that trap and ended up a fate which was pretty bad. All that being said, the stories ranked from 1 to 4 for me, but they kind of flushed out right where Simian was at 2.5. The stories, because they're so short, it's hard to develop. Writing a short science fiction story is a tough thing to do, and these guys tried their darndest, I think, but came up short in a lot of ways, and in others came up pretty high. But overall, average 2.5.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. And speaking of ComicHead, you are not getting away from here. You're not getting out of this warp here.
Right. Do you mind if I use the visual aid as I go through the stories?
Yes, absolutely.
Roger, just really well done at just really extracting the theme of each story. You nailed it, obviously, on what the message and moral was of each one. So for me, since I haven't read a lot of sci-fi, so I might be like a cheap date, man, when it comes to this stuff, because I really popped for a lot of these stories, and I really got a kick out of it. And I would imagine maybe a lot of these scenarios are like maybe old hat or heavily treaded roads in sci-fi, but for me, man, I popped for a few of these really hard. I just like the mature tone of the stories overall. It's a balance that I don't feel like holds up that much in modern comics. It's adult oriented, but it's not like extra gory or shock value, and it's not like so base level that it's like doesn't have enough faith in the reader. Like, I like the tone that it struck. It's pretty dark too. Mm-hmm. Like dark moral lessons, So, like you said, different writing, different writer for each one, different teams altogether. The first one, Denny O'Neil. This for me was a home run story of this kind of like comes off as a cruel guy who destroyed the entire planet that he came from. They're the soul survivors with this, this wife or woman that he took who like treats her kind of cruelly. They have 2 kids. One kid that is like already there that you imply that it's not his, and then they have a kid together, and then he lets he lets them start a new world, Adam and Eve style. So, you know, I popped on that, brother, because brother and sister-in-law is a concept, you know, that I've researched it a bit before. You know what I'm saying? So I was down for that. So that was a good story. Congratulations for that brother and sister-in-law duo. The Mating Game. Thumbs down. Thumbs down. This one was like so base level. It was too surface. The other ones, at least, you know, you have to like read into it a little bit. This was surface level, kind of goofy. Spiders that you know, do the Black Widow thing but reversed, of destroying the females after. You could, you know, whack, I would say. The Righteous Ones was one that I really popped for myself. I thought it was like, it just, the dialogue between the father and the girls was well done. I thought they get to, kudos to the writer for being able to deliver a concise story with a message that you follow in a span of a few pages. You know, that takes some writing acumen. So that's accomplished all throughout this, well, for half of them. This story was great. Just the life lesson of, like you said, being overly judgmental, religious bigotry. I was down for that one. The Survivors was a cool one. Thumbs up on that. This one I kind of saw coming a little bit, but it was well told. You know, as you can see on the last panel there, the human woman who was living a double life as a spy alien, who was so heartbroken to leave her man behind. When she comes home, she realized he was a double agent alien dressed as a human. What? So real Twilight Zone, or more recently Black Mirror kind of action going on, which is cool. You know, I don't know. It might be a cheap trick to do the old ta-da bait and switch, but I think it's an effective method of storytelling, and you know, there's a reason why Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, both those series, I think are pretty well regarded as, you know, fairly high level storytelling. So I don't look down on the twist endings. Forecast, I barely called this is like an interlude. I barely call it a whole story. It was very short. It's just a gag of, they think they're like getting attacked by spaceships, but it's snowflakes. That's how small they are. They don't have a sense of, that one's like, that was just a real cheap gag. Barely a story.
True.
You know, the Monsters was real middle of the road for me. It wasn't very compelling for me, and I don't think that the moral, because a lot of them really stuck the landing on delivering you a good moral message, and like to take away the folly of whoever you were following. I don't think this one accomplished that as well as the others. It kind of punished the scheming girl, and she was trying to like kill off the third wheel guy for his money, and it was like, I don't know, I thought that was a weird one. It wasn't very inspired, you know. Rescue, I gotta be honest, man, my eyes were like glazing over the story for some reason. I couldn't get invested in it, and for that, it's a below average story. Was not one of my favorites. And then, speaking of favorites, my favorite, The Man Who Could See Yesterday. This, you know, they find out there's a planet that they can see the future, and the first thing he thinks of is, how can I get them to predict the stock market and make money? So it was pretty funny that he just got devious like that. He abandoned his space crew and left on a solo vessel. You know, so, and then when he goes and approaches them, he kidnaps one and he ties him to a chair, and he's like, all right, start predicting the stock market. So you're just waiting for like, okay, how's this guy going to get it? Because we know this, the tone that's been established here. So like, how's he going to get it? And it was very clever the way that he got it, which was the reveal is, hey, we can see the future, but we have only like 48 hours of memory retention. So we're going to strap you to a chair, and you're going to be like the memory bank for our society. So I didn't see it coming. I thought it was a great twist, a great way to teach that dude his lesson. So there was 8 stories total, and 4 of them I thought were good to great for what the writer's given. 4 or 5 pages to tell a story. 4 of them were great. 4 of them were subpar, and I didn't really dig it that much. So that should equal a 2.5. However, I think that it's even the ones that weren't that bad are still pretty much more inspired than a lot of stuff that's out there. So I rounded up to a 3.
Very nice. Very nice. I kind of, just the way you were talking, in my mind, I said he's going to say a 3.
Yeah.
Just because you gave more emphasis to the good ones than you gave gruff for the bad ones. So.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff, Kenny. Excellent stuff. I think that last one was I didn't see it coming either. So
yeah, right. That was a clever one.
Yeah, that was clever. I knew that they would be able to tell he was coming, but I didn't know that they trapped him.
Yeah,
that was cool. Yeah. All right, now it's time for this amazing, stupendous, fabulous chat to get involved here. If you haven't read the stories, don't need to feel pressured to give a grade, but you can even base it on our little synopsis, or if you did read it, all the better, right? I know Scott Neely read it because he put it on Instagram all day today. So get in there, give us your grade from 0 to 5, 8 stories. If you want to ignore the bad ones and just grade the good ones, that's up on you. But give us at least some kind of idea about what you think about this comic book story-wise.
I can't wait to read the rest of them. I was waiting to insert this here. My favorite class in college was, what was it called? The Dissection of Science Fiction. And this was our textbook for it.
Whoa.
I got to read all like the 40s and 50s. This one actually had some pretty cool artwork in it too. From some of the pulp magazines and all that. Yeah. But it was just, I love old sci-fi stories, man. They were so much different than everything else that was out there. Because everything else back then was kind of syrupy sweet. And, usually the good guy always won. And certainly humanity was never wiped out. Unless Orson Welles got a hold of you. But I mean, yeah, just I don't know. I love the science fiction genre, especially in those years, because that was the golden age for science fiction, was back around then. And it was nice to see a resurgence of those type of stories in this book.
Excellent. Yeah, I was big into the pulps. I had a bunch of them at one time, and man, let me tell you, if you want hardcore science fiction, some of those stories, like Kenny, like that last one, I was reading and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, and that made me even more excited because I couldn't figure it out, So Asimov was really good at that. Oh man, what was this guy? Paul Anderson was really good at that. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank, but trust me, these guys back then were genius at being able to spin things going one way and then misdirect us and taking us another way. I love that about science fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Heinlein, look at like Starship Troopers. I mean, that's the total shell of a book. People have no idea. They can gloss right over it and not even realize what he was talking about just because of the subject matter was so ridiculous. But there's a complete undercurrent of like totalitarian government right underneath that, if you just were a little bit introspective. So yeah, sci-fi, they always had stuff to tell back then.
Yeah, I love the skeleton of that society was fascist, to be blunt. And that's as far from Heinlein's personal beliefs as you could get, But he did have a little streak of that in him. But Raj, now check it out. There were still pulps being published. When in the 70s, I had subscriptions to Analog, Asimov, fantasy and science fiction. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Analog is still being published today.
I think it is. I mean, it's a bit different than what we remember it, but yeah, it's Analog was, I cut my teeth on that. I actually, when I worked at the shop, somebody brought in a bunch of them. They didn't want to buy them, so they threw them in the trash. Guess where Roger was dumpster diving in about 5 minutes right into that dumpster. I mean, it was like a stack this big. Great stuff. I mean, it didn't have a lot of art in it, as you know, Simian, but you didn't need to, because your imagination, you know about spaceships and space and planets, so you can sort of put together a picture, even if it's not succinct or put right in front of you. Great stuff.
All right. I believe your time for advocating, huh?
All right. Let's go.
And it appears I was misguided. Scott corrected me. I think I was just misguided on the brother-sister-in-law connection. You're right. I think maybe just my imagination got the best of me.
Hey, listen, if in any comic it get confusing, it's this, because 8 stories, you can some of them kind of run together, you know what I mean? There are couples in here, there are monsters, you know, there are situations where people are stranded. So yeah.
All right.
You know what? Oh, I'm sorry. For anyone out there who watches Futurama, I just realized something. These guys off this old pulp cover here were actually aliens on the series.
I want to see this. Oh,
those are actually delegates at like the Dupe headquarters. I remember seeing these guys before. That's wacky, man.
cool.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and the robot is like the guy from that classic, what is it, that classic Golden Age robot cover, Startling Adventures. I know DS knows. I think he has it. Anyway.
All right, here we go, guys. Here we go. All righty. Immortal Biggie Shack, thank you so much for the starting line there, buddy. I appreciate you. All right, he's starting it off with a 3. Scott, 3.5. Mr. Miracle Dave is gracing us with his presence.
His score doesn't count.
2.5. 2. 4 from DS Comics. How you doing, buddy? 3. 3.5 because of keeping the EC tradition alive. I like it. 3 from Mark Knapp. Silver Age Dave with a 4. How you doing, Dave? I think that's it, guys. Oh, sorry. Steve Whiting with a 3. And Steve, I Love Disney and Comics with a 3. How you doing, guys? Steve and Steve back to back. It's like a vaudeville act, you know?
All right.
Oh, hold on. Bub's Comics, my buddy from the No Faces chat. 2.5. Bub, hold on a second.
Might be too late now.
Bub, there you go. We thought about you as soon as we saw this posterior. Not because you have it, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I meant to say this too. Is I got this in a 2-pack, right? So it came with the first and the second.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good cover. That's
a good
the cover,
Yeah.
compared to the first one. But
Yeah. There are 2 or 3 covers which are really, really good, and the other is
Only 5 issues, huh? I looked it up.
5 or 6. Yeah, 5 or 6. I forgot how many.
Short run, though, huh?
Yeah, I think there were 6, but I think the other one was like much later on, like 20th century, 21st century. All right, Kenny, what's the score there, buddy?
That's a 3.
3. Oh,
that's
okay.
a 3.
All right.
That's a 3. Yeah, Startling Comics 49 DS. That's the Futurama seemed to design Bender, the robot, right off that guy.
Right. Yeah, a little bit better than some of us thought. Okay, although Kenny was on the ball, but
Yeah.
What was your grade on Genome?
Well, I gave it 3.5 just on the first story because it's. I don't know if all of them kept that in the end. I'll have to figure that out. But
if you want to go back, read them all, and re-rank or whatever, that's fine.
All
right.
The results go right into Library of Congress as soon as we stop the stream.
That's right. You know that they're waiting. They're waiting for the UPC code.
Yeah.
So send them over there. Okay. The interior art of this comic, right? That's next, right? Okay. I'm not going to say anything. Let's see what you guys think. Genome, I think you are on the button for this.
Alrighty.
So let us know what you think about this. Was it magnificent or was it wah, wah, wah?
Let's give you some perspective here. There's many different artists in here, and each story has a different artist usually involved. The weakest art in this book was by Ditko. I think that shows you the power of what is in this book. There is some incredible art. I love this art style of this period, and it's got 2 of my favorite Batman artists on here too as well. It's got Aparo and Giordano on there, and just incredible, man. How did they get this slew of amazing artists on this? it's like they took the best of everything they had and threw here's 2 stories, do them. And I mean, just there's so many things I could go through page after page of beauty in this book. There's just so many cool panels. There's a cool panel layouts all throughout this book. I mean, check out this panel layout. That's freaking gorgeous, man. Freaking reticule target right there, upside down and everything. Oh man, just I love it. Great action scenes in here. There's a couple of ones. I think it's the second story. That's just way too busy though. Lots of text in there that really kind of drags it down. I'm not going to sit there and play around with it too long, but if I find it, but just everything here is so good, man. I mean, once again, look at this breaking of panel wall there. Just incredible stuff, man. And it's just so solid all throughout. Like the very first splash page. Check. I mean, that's how you start a book. You know, Marvel, DC nowadays, this is how you start a book off if you want people to actually get interested, right? Mm-hmm. The total annihilation of Earth, and that's what you find out in the next page or whatever. Brilliant, man. Let's see. I remember the last page being really cool too. I'm not going to flip the whole book on you, but suffice it to say, it was all really good. I really want to find this because there's a lot of spaceships in this. Like, I like this simple, organic design, beautiful backdrop. Good sense of perspective, you know, just a slight angle tilted toward the viewer. It's just so incredibly strong, man. Like, just look at this panel, like this half, I can't see what I'm doing there, the half face and all that. It's just gorgeous, man. This is like an old Orson Welles trick there by leaving the face half in shadow and all that to show bad guys. Now, some of the stuff is a little bit weaker. Once again, I think it's more the Ditko stuff there, like these half-rate stormtroopers there and stuff looks, but so a little bit of that takes away, but I don't want, I'm not bashing. I'm not saying it is bad. I just didn't enjoy his part of it nearly as much as the others. So I'm going to go 4.5. I think the art in this book is just absolutely incredible. Yeah, I don't know what else you can say about it. The inking, everything. I love everything about this. Other than like 1 or 2 of the stories is just way too many text boxes, so it gets a little too busy in a few of the pages. Mm-hmm. But other than that, and once again, Ditko being maybe the weakest artist on this book, it's just incredible. 4 or 5. Beautiful.
Wow. Nice, Genome. Yeah, you pointed out some things I was going to, so I think we're close there, I think. But anyway, thank you very much. Great stuff. I guess I'm next. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the art to me is by far and away the best part of this comic. Starting with the first one, Genome hit it. Great splash page. I mean, if this doesn't grab you, I mean, you know, there's fire raining from above. There's aliens. There's destruction, devastation. There's a little vignette here of some guy, you know, that you're not sure what's going on. Really intrigued stuff. Buckler did just a great job. Look at the face here of this guy. Good detail. You know, you can tell this guy is not, you know, a good guy, at least at this point, you know. And he draws a pretty good starscape. The story flows well thematically, and as far as how the children grow and the space of time. Again, he only has a few pages here, but I think this is a home run totally for Buckler. Really well done. The young face here, you know, and the way that he draws the mile area, you know, that it's being reconstructed, the blasting of the space station here. Just, I mean, honestly, very well done. I thought that was a home run. Yeah, Ditko, I think he dialed it in. I mean, he just sort of, hey, you know, I'll throw something together. The figures are very, very loosely drawn. Some of the outfits, you know, it doesn't look like they're, you know, physically or that they can stay on. You know, they got no support whatsoever. The faces pretty much look the same except for the one guy with the glasses. Yeah, very weak. I do like the spider being here in the middle, but very weak. To me, Genome, Giordano here. Giordano. I always considered him kind of an average artist. I'm wrong. This is a 5 all day long. Beautiful art here. Great layouts, really inventive. Great detail on the aliens and the faces. The way that he tells a story, he conveys emotion. I can't find a thing wrong with this story. I got to search out more of his stuff because I mean this is just gorgeous stuff, absolutely gorgeous. It has almost like a Neil Adams-ish kind of attractiveness to it, but even sharper, I think, on the faces and the starships. Tom Sutton, Charlton artist, did a great job here. I mean, it's his style is very kind of mushy, unlike Giordano, which is very sharp. But it works for the story. It conveys the kind of frenetic story that's going on, the confusion, the uncertainty of the situation. Not a home run, but a good triple, double, triple there. I'm not going to get too much detail. Again, we have the second Ditko story, a little better on the art. I do like the aliens here a little better, and that scene is a little bit tighter drawn, but again, not great. I'd say that's about average or so. Grandinetti on the monsters was about average. I'm not a huge fan of his art. Everything looks a little bit too angular to me and kind of out of focus in the backgrounds. But his monster, or actually it's the human that converted in the monster. Really good design, I thought, though. Kind of a pink mush, almost like a very severe form of elephantitis. What else? Aparo. Oh, I'm sorry, Don Newton. Don Newton did a good job on Rescue. Not a home run, but he does a good job with the faces and interspersing the different colors, showing the different places that they are and the different emotional situation that they put themselves in. A little bit better than average. I do like the face of the lady, pretty well done there. And then the last one by that's the one by Aparo. Again, very well done. Really like that spaceship. Really well designed there. Good storytelling, flows well. When he sees the kind of vision or the guys the aliens that are kind of he's listening to, he puts it so that they're transparent. Not quite as sharp as Giordano, but definitely a 4 there. So overall, I'm almost where Genome was. I gave this a 4. Honestly, the art was mind-blowing. If the stories were a little tighter, this would have been a regular comic book because it is that good of an art. Art-wise, it's that good. So 4 para mí.
4. Tough act to follow, Roger, that one. He's
Well, you don't have to follow it.
Oh, I don't? All right.
No, it's eastbound or down. Yep.
I got to round off.
No, the gentleman from Georgia.
Oh,
Mr. Simian. I'm really curious to see what your take is about the art in this book. Let us know, buddy.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as y'all pretty much. I mean, what a great list you got here. Buckler was my FF artist when I first started buying those series brand new. And he knocked it out of the park with this one. I don't have any complaints. The first Ditko story is probably the weakest art in the book. But I did like the very last page, the middle panels, when the Black Widowers attack. That cracked me up. Giordano, he's underrated because he's not flashy, but he's the highest compliment I could give another human being is to say you're competent. That is not an insult to me at all. It means you do your job, you knock it out, you're good, and you get the hell on. Giordano's competent. That was a solid story, solid art. Tom Sutton on the Survivors was my favorite freaking story and my favorite art in the book. Gore brought up Alex Nino in the chat a while back, and his monster and some of his forms very much remind me of Nino.
Good point.
And Nino, this was his medium. These weird stories with a twist from Warren, and I'm sure I saw them in House of Mystery and House of Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next Ditko story, this panel right here, I like the background. It kind of reminds me of his early Doctor Strange stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like the aliens in that, but it's not his best effort. All right, then the monsters. I'm sorry, the story was just not that good. The artist is somebody, Grandianetti, that I'm not familiar with, and it was just, the less said about that, the better. But the last story, the art was pretty solid. It fit the story perfectly. The crash landing of the spaceship was really well done, especially for just a narrow top panel. No, that's the next to last story. I'm sorry. The last story is by Aparo, and it just seems like it's not bad art, but it's not nearly as polished as he became, just a few years later. But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the art. I mean, it's just a fantastic lineup of artists in the main, and I'll have to go with the 4 also.
Nice.
I hate to sound like a parrot, but this is, these are my 4s.
Hey, it is what it is, and if we came about it from a different perspective. You thought the Newton was the best one. I thought the Giordano was the best art, but many roads lead to Rome, and we got there at the same time.
Just don't get in the baths. Yep.
All right, Kenny. I know that you are that. I can almost feel the heart coming out of that T-shirt, ready to regale us with your your summation for the art in this book. So I'm not going to pull a bub and delay it anymore.
Yeah.
Kenny, what do you say about the art in Time Warp #1? Is it a bust or is it a boom?
It's a good question. If you could pop in my my visual, assistant here. So, all right. Giordano is, I say he's more than competent, man. I think he's delivering high level stuff. I was really impressed with the first story. Good use of panels like this page with that close up in the center square. Good rendering of that guy, the bald guy, kind of giving you that creepy look. Cool like scenery, landscapes. I love it. And especially his facial expressions and everything is like top notch. So Giordano coming out strong on the first story. This art alone would be in the probably at 4 for me. The second story so Steve Ditko. Let me tell you, quick thought on Steve Ditko. For me personally, I don't know if this is sacrilege or not, but I'm a fan of Steve Ditko, and I feel like I appreciate him. I feel like he's more important of an artist than he is like a particularly high level artist, in my humble opinion. I don't think you hear Ditko in the conversations with the Kirbys, Buscema, guys like John Byrne and stuff, when he's part of that kind of original pantheon of artists on a lot of stuff. And I've always found that his art never like super resonated with me, aside from his Doctor Strange. I feel like Ditko's Doctor Strange art is like some of the coolest renditions of the character, because it almost helps. He's kind of a wonky character with weird dimensions and magic, and I feel like Ditko's style is a little wonky, and he's not gonna, in my opinion, deliver you like a really heavily rendered, particularly dynamic showcase when it comes to superhero art, comic book art. So subpar artwork from the Kirby, the Ditko rather. How dare I say Kirby? Ditko. Wear my banners. The Giordano again, man, with this next story. This is my favorite art of the whole book. the Genome hit it right on the head, because Genome seemed to gravitate towards this story when he's pointing out the panel layouts, so unique, so dynamic, cool sound effects, onomatopoeia. The women are drawn fantastic. Where's that? Look at that target shot. Remind me of that ASM 129. Boom. Making her head upside down versus just straight on. Great move. Great dynamic panel work. The rendering's awesome. Damn. Giordano is the star of the book. R-wise, that's like a 4.5 to me. This fellow, who is this fellow again? This was Simian's. I think Simian shouted him out as the favorite. Sutton. Well, he's Sutton, all right, because I wasn't like totally enthralled. I think he had cool panel layout and design. Like, I think he structured the story pretty cool. I would just like to see a little more crisper rendering and line work, and it hit me with a little bit of a rushed feel. But I have a feeling that the inker, I don't think did these pages any favors, because it feels under inked to me in this digital format. You know what I'm saying? I think that the inker dropped the ball. Maybe I shouldn't be too hard on Sutton, because it is good stuff. Just let's get some ink in there. Highlight his art, Ditko, this was a very simplistically drawn thing, very simple aliens. This is his speed. It was nothing too crazy. He did fine there. But good monsters. This guy, Jerry Grandinetti, you could tell, I don't know if he's early in his career at this point, but talk about jacking Jack Kirby style. You could tell he's like heavily influenced by Kirby, in my opinion.
Yes, you're right.
Like, right down to a classic Kirby move is the first page of a book. He delivers that awesome big splash page introduction, which he did here, which I think looks cool. The way the spaceship is like sitting in the foreground of the title monsters, like, well done. I love that first page. And you can just see the very angular, like Metarog said, and kind of blocky physiques. It just definitely reads heavy Kirby influence to me, which isn't a bad thing. Story, it read pretty good, but I just couldn't help but be like, damn, bro, get Kirby off your mind, will you? Rescue, cool layout, interesting work here. This was that story that I just, for some reason, didn't grip me that well, but yeah, Genome pointed out that shadowy panel. That's good stuff, man. That's good suspenseful artwork. Now that I look at it, this was that's pretty well done. So high level. Most of these are high level. There's not really any stinkers in the last story. Who was that? Jim Aparo. Oh yeah, Jim Aparo ain't gonna let you down. He did a good job here too. Great spaceship. Very can we say phallic on the Metarog channel? Really, but interesting design all around. Good shadowing, facial work, like all top shelf. Man, I'm just gonna fall in line, man, with the 4. I think 4 is a very appropriate art grade for this book, even though a lot of different artists. That's a first for us, but it aggregated right there. 4.
Yeah, that does speak well of the overall product when there can be so many different artists and stylistically different artists too, and they still put out such a strong book for the most part. It's pretty good stuff, man.
Yeah. Good stuff, Kenny. Good stuff. I enjoyed that synopsis. You pointed out a few things I didn't catch.
Oh, okay.
Nice stuff. A few of the guys are talking about that we didn't grade the Hostess Pie ad.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, we do not grade the ads because that would have added a 9th story to this. But my opinion is that it was well done. I mean,
guess it's now's not a good time to pull out my King Dong. Right.
Just because we aim to please here on Graders Notes. It is a 1-page. Oh, hold on. It is a 1-pager. All right. It is sci-fi kind of themed if you want to get to the nitty-gritty. But we do not grade it. But it's got a nice little whimsical story, but it is an ad for Hostess Talk. So.
And dude, I played right into their hands because I'm going story to story. I go to that, I'm like, okay, space, we're in line. I'm like, oh, cool, it's DC. I'm like, cool, they made a Wonder Woman story. That's fun. I'm going through just reading it as if it was the next story. I'm like, damn you, Hostess, you got me.
Oh man.
See, I like this next level advertising too. They actually advertise the first issue in the first issue.
In the first issue.
I love it, man.
What the heck?
yeah, it's in there.
I think it. Hold on. Put it up there. Yeah, I think what happened is that they put this in all the issues for this month, and all the giant size issues. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny too. That it's sort of like, man, you've already bought it. Why are you advertising in it, right? But
that's funny.
Yeah, it was. I just found it so refreshing in this book because I collected barely any DC. Like back in the 80s and 90s, the only runs I collected were Batman, and DC Comic or Detective Comics was my favorite. And Aparo and Jordan were all over that series for like 100 issues. They were just all through it. It was my favorite artwork of the series. So it was so cool to see them like condensed here.
Yeah, agreed.
Into one book.
All right, let's get to the people who know what they're talking about. That is the fifth grader, this great chat. Again, you saw some of the artwork here that we interspersed. Kenny showed a bit digitally, or if you had the issue or you've seen it in the past, give us your best shot, from 0 to 5, what you think. Maybe you're a big Ditko fan and you thought, hey, those were actually really well done Ditko stories. You can disagree for certain. Maybe you thought the Giordano was weak. Fine. But give us your best shot, 0 to 5, on the artwork of the interior of this comic.
I thought I might be asking for it with that Ditko critique. I just got to be, genuine to myself. But I'm curious, what are your guys' opinion on, the work of Ditko? I don't hear him brought up as much as he probably should, honestly. I
enjoy Ditko. I really like his Charlton stuff, the early Spidey, but this was not his best effort by any stretch.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Simian.
But in general, though, like historically, his body of work, you guys held that in high regard? Yeah.
Very much.
If you look at his honestly, his Spider-Man, I think it's iconic, but it's not really special.
Yeah, iconic, right?
But his Charlton work, it's little known because it's short stories, it's hidden in horror and sci-fi. But if you look, he really put a lot of effort into not just the figures, but the actual storytelling elements of the art in those stories. And like the one that you gave me, Unruly, that Ghost Manor, he had a story in there that was just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. You compare it to this, and it's almost like two different artists, So I think that the early Ditko, pre-76 or so, is good stuff. After that, he was dialing it in pretty much.
Didn't you just buy a showcase, the first appearance of Creeper, Kenny?
Yeah, I did.
That's Ditko goodness.
Sure.
Yep. Right.
Creeper. Yeah. In the questions, like his Blue Beetle work, the first, he introduced Question.
Yep.
So I respect him for sure.
Yeah.
But just to strictly an analysis of his artwork, I've always kind of felt it fall a little short. Personally, but I've only read so much. Mostly the Marvel stuff when I think of it, aside from Blue Beetle, Creeper, Mr. A. I hear mentioned a lot, but I don't think I've ever even seen what a Mr. A comic really.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good, and like we were saying, his Doctor Strange stuff, he was perfect.
Yeah,
mystical, shooting out of astral projection.
Yeah,
his art kind of played to that, but when it comes to hardcore, superhero stuff, not so much, I thought.
Yeah, like fight scenes, like it doesn't seem to be a strong suit, but getting a little quirky, I think his Strange stuff is great.
Yeah.
See, I think a lot too of their style, especially those OG guys. A lot of people probably don't take into consideration the workload they were under, and they developed a style to get product out because there wasn't too many guys out there doing this. So they were responsible for like 90% of the art you were seeing in these books. So it's like they don't have to sit there and have time to obsess over a panel. They have to get it out. and Kirby working on books over a weekend. It's just crazy the stories these guys did. So I think their style might have it just carried over from that time when they learned to just go fast, and then not worry about the details as much.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty here. Let's see what we got. Did Biggie do me a sorting line, or am I missing it here, guys? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, here we go. I guess it starts with Scott Neely. All right. Ready, Kenny?
Yeah.
4.5, 4.5, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 3.5. Our Mr. Miracle coming in with his little hedging here. 4, 3.5, 4, 4.5. That's it.
That came to a 4.
I think that is pretty much where we're going to be,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the fact that the chat agreed with the majority of us. And honestly, Genome, I almost gave it a 4. If it wasn't for the Ditko, that first Ditko story, which was just, I would have given it 4.5. The second one was a slightly better. I could deal with it, but.
I wasn't even crazy about his aliens in the second one either. I know Unruly said he liked them, but I really wasn't crazy about those guys either, the Cyclops guys or whatever they were.
I thought they were kind of cool, kind of like hulking Cyclopses. Not great, but not terrible.
But yeah, it was great, amazing art, I thought.
That's all water under the bridge at this point.
Gone.
Past. So we're not going to dwell upon that anymore. We're going to look forward into the future. Just like science fiction. In the future,
twirling.
Hey, Outer Limits is on my I've seen all the old ones many times, but I'm now watching the newer ones, and they're kind of like this. It's like good and then really bad. So concept, and I think I'm on the button. I don't think I can pass this off to anybody. So I'm going to take the hit on this one. All right, concept. I am pulling a homer here. Let me just tell you that right off the bat, guys. I'm pulling a homer. I'm pulling.
Dope.
1979. Meteorog, loving his science fiction. Going to bed with strange adventures and mystery in space, and analog. And whatever else I can piece together from the used bookstores and the thrift shops, the garage sales, and it's generally not newer stuff. It's like really older stuff, which I still enjoy. But I saw this on the spinner rack, 7-Eleven, Coral Way in 74th Avenue, okay, in the fall of 1979. I'm pretty sure it was the fall of 1979. And it's $1, right? It's $1, which is 3 times or 2.5 times maybe what the comics were at the time. So I was like, man, I only have like $3 maybe, and I got to get a Slurpee, or whatever, right? So, I am doing a double take, but all I had to read was up here, science fiction, and it's like, here's the book, here it is, boom, it's on the counter. I had to get it. Because to a man in a desert, a drop of water is, a waterfall. Okay. And I was a man in a science fiction desert at 1979. There was just nothing around. You had Worlds Unknown back in the mid 70s from Marvel. Okay. And that was pretty good. And you had a few science fiction stories and Marvel Premiere and Spotlight. They were just mere tidbits, but to have an actual eight stories and a series, I was hoping this wasn't a one shot, but it wasn't. To have an actual series that you can hold in your hands and take home and reread, and it had, some of the great talents of at the time, Levitz, Mike W. Barr, George Cashton, all these guys were doing which told me that there were going to be other issues because not all of them are in this one. So I was sold 100%, 1,000%. I am head over heels in love at this point. The little Time Warp logo, the Kaluta art, the firing of this, super overdone gun, and the monster, which I couldn't even tell how big he was. It still sold me. So as far as a concept, because of the newsstands were bereft of comics that had any kind of science fiction elements to them, I consider this a higher grade than probably you guys are going to give, but I'm pulling a homer on this, and I give the concept a solid 4.5. Yes, 4.5, because Metarog was starving. He was a day away from just being emaciated from his science fiction diet, and here it is. And now that I knew that it would be coming on a regular basis, I was a much happier Metarog in 1979 because I knew there was going to be some sci-fi coming my way every couple months. So as far as the concept, because of how the dearth of anything at the time, I'm going to pull a homer. I'm going to pull from left field. Yeah, it's nothing new. There were pulpish, there was analog, things like that, but there were no DC or Marvel comics of hardcore science fiction at the time. So for me, this is a 4.5. I wish it was cheaper, and I wish the stories were a little longer and not so many, put together. Anthologies, okay, but they were so short that they didn't have time to develop a lot of them. But other than that, I took off for that. So I would have wished it was a regular price, 50 cents or 40 cents at that time. But and again, 2 or 3 stories. But again, I'm not complaining. 4.5 homer score for me on that one.
I saw that one coming. Roger's mustache was like flaring and bristling right before it even got started, man. I knew it was on.
If you have a dog, when they're excited, how the haunch on the back comes up, the hair stands up. That's the same thing with my mustache. When I get excited, it perks up. Oh, man. So, 4.5 for me. Okay. Is Kenny there? Is he next?
Can you just give me 1 minute, Roger?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Well,
or if I can go.
Putting his pants back on.
I'll skip you for now.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Simian, I know that you're not ready, but you're going to take one for the team here and go ahead of Kenny. He's passing he's giving you the pass, right? He had to go to the bathroom, so he's giving you the pass, like in the like in the classrooms, when you had to go to the bathroom, you had to take a big old, wooden knot or whatever. So he's got the wooden knot, and you got stuck in the classroom answering the teacher's question. What is your score on the concept for this particular comic?
I think Jackson Roykirk summed it up best in the chat. He said, SF anthology is always a great concept. It all depends on the execution. And, like we've discussed, we came out with a better than average score for the stories, a 4 for the arts. So I think this was a concept whose time had come. And it led to better things in the 80s. Less anthology, more long-running good SF stories that we're still enjoying today. My favorite comics today, and I love my superheroes, are the indie science fiction stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wanting to vamp a little. You might have to go to Genome because I was just going to be short and sweet and say the concept was a solid 4.
Excellent. You made a good point there in that this was sort of, and I should have mentioned it, but in my excitement, I forgot. This sort of opened the door a little bit to, like you said, in the 80s, when we got, we started getting stuff like we were talking about Starstruck. And we talked about, Starlin started with his Dreadstar stuff, which had some elements of that. It kind of did open the door a little bit. And I really enjoyed the fact that this, although it's sort of like, how can I say this? This is like a Neanderthal version, of science fiction but it evolved later on into something which was much more coherent It had, DS made a good point. The movies and the series started coming out. You started seeing. I don't want to talk about Star Wars because again, that's a sore spot. You started getting the Star Trek movies. You started getting all those kinds of the Alien movies, things like that, that really took off right around this time or right after this time. So I'm not saying this started it, but boy, this was something that, at least in my mind, sort of primed me for what was coming later on. So good stuff, Simian. I actually made good points there, buddy.
Jaws was never my scene, and I don't like Star Wars. Can anyone name that song?
No.
That's a deep cut.
That's
We'll give chat some time on that one.
If Kenny doesn't know it, I certainly don't know
It
it.
was actually a huge band, too, and a radio song. Mm-hmm.
You're going to let us know? Or we're going to see for the chat. Okay.
We'll give chat a few seconds here.
All right.
Oh, chat, you're awful.
No, all right. Good. Anyway.
There you go. Roy Kirk guy. He knows everything.
Who was it?
That was Bicycle Race by Queen. That was the line in that one.
Man, I tell you, music guys are amazing. Oh, Kenny, you ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know if you were going to the boys' room or whatever, so I didn't want to.
Yeah, I'm at my post. I'm ready for action. We're talking the concept, right? Concept. The overall concept of sci-fi stories with an adult, darker tone and an anthology setup is high marks. I'm not. It doesn't sound like it was a real common thing in comic books, especially with the big two, right? So high marks on that. I feel like there was too many stories in it. So whoever the editor was that said, let's put 8 stories in this comic book. That was a misstep, I think, on his part. I think because it's funny. Of the 8 stories, when I graded it on writing, my conclusion was 4 of them kicked ass and really were top shelf stuff, and 4 of them, were average to below average. So that should tell you something. I think keep it at 4 or 5 stories. Put your good talent on it. Flesh out good concepts. Scrap the ones that is someone a guy trying to meet a deadline and whatever. So I feel like that was a misstep. But the overall thing of it's DC. Because that's one of the things that I think DC did. Because personally, I feel like Marvel really dominated the Bronze Age. I feel like Marvel really was kicking ass in the Bronze Age, and DC, had some good stuff, no doubt. Batman, I feel like was always pretty steady in that time, but Marvel was really hitting its stride in early Bronze Age and onward. But DC, when it came to non-superhero stuff, Marvel could not touch their horror, and I think Marvel, I don't even think they dared to get into this realm of sci-fi anthology style. So I've always liked that DC wasn't afraid to veer off and get away from the cape stuff, as it went into a more modern time. Because I know, you go back to Golden Age stuff, yeah, cowboy stories, sci-fi stories. But once superheroes arrived, I feel like Marvel didn't really, they never looked back. They got into superheroes and never really looked back, whereas DC still mixed it up a bit. So kudos to them on that. High marks for bringing in seems to be short-lived, but sci-fi anthology story. Just could have edited it a little more. So I give it a 3.5. Good stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I that's a good point. I think I mentioned it I think 8 it diluted the product a bit.
Yeah.
Especially the writing. I think the art could have gotten away with it, but the writing and getting 8 stories. I mean, I don't know how the editor must have gone nuts trying to compile all this. I mean, I don't know if these were inventory stories that they've had for a while or what, but it seems to me like, it was just a bit much, but it is what it is. And like you said, Marvel, they did something called Open Space, I think in the early 90s, late 80s, which is similar to this. But they were way beyond Marvel, because DC, because DC also had a Mystery in Space, which they rebooted. I want to say right around this time, or maybe right after. I don't remember exactly when. But it only lasted, a few issues, and then it tanked again, because again they didn't have the dedication to sci-fi. You have to figure that some stories, sci-fi is not like a character which takes off and then all of a sudden it becomes a big hit. It's a slow burn. If it's good, you have to give it time for it to sort of seep into the psyche of the reader. And DC just didn't have patience for that, apparently. But oh well, enough of that. All right, the chat concept. What do you guys think? I don't think you could say this was a money grab. Okay, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination you can say that is what it was. But do you think this was something which was ahead of its time? It should never have started. That they should have done totally differently? Give us what your estimation was about the grade based on what you see and hear here. And let's see if we are in the realm or if we're totally nutsoid.
Well, you don't want to hear my opinion on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Invisible and silent.
I'm sorry.
That's a song by Covenant, by the way.
Everything I just said, strike that out. Your Honor, could you delete that from the record? Thank you. Dino, I am so glad that you are bringing up the rear. Sorry, that didn't come out the way I wanted it. That you are the last one for the concept. Let us know what you think, my friend.
I think Roger just gave me the dreaded Rear Admiral. All right, so concept. Well, Kenneth puts it very well here. It's just an overstuffed baked potato at the Texas Roadhouse. It's. Remember how we read Dread last time? That was perfect. 3 pretty tight stories all together. That was good. This one was way overstuffed. I don't know if they were trying to make like a giant size, kind of homage, like stealing some Marble Splendor there, slap $1 on it, make it thick, and then, case Raleigh will sell or whatever. So I didn't like that. It was overstuffed. My conspiracy theory, the reason they wanted to do 8 per is because you can knock out a story for one of these in like 30 minutes to an hour. If you're an experienced writer, right? So I think they figured if it got down to crunch time, the editor himself could just write it out real fast, as is often the case, and then, they don't have to throw, 2 days of work to a fast artist and they can get that other story filled in there. That's what I'm guessing, but maybe they just wanted a prestigious, I want my dollar book, so we have some more bragging rights. I don't know, whatever the case may be. I don't think it was a sound business decision. Now, from a reader standpoint, I really like what they did here. They throw tons of good artists, quality artists, at this book, known artists too. These weren't just good unknown guys. There's some pretty well-known artists in here, and turn them loose. It's cool to have a science fiction book, and they're still trying to ride the unmentionable science fiction movie that brought sci-fi back on the rage. I'm not going to say it, but so they're kind of trying to get on that ball, but I think much like Battlestar Galactica, which was people were talking about in the chat earlier, is probably a little bit late for that. And this wasn't the kind of sci-fi they were thinking about. They were thinking more big galactic war kind of thing, and those people weren't looking for too much of an introspective thing. And I don't think those people were even reading comic books that much, to be honest with you. So I think this is actually just a little too targeted at the hardcore science fiction fan, an old comic book reader. So it doesn't surprise me that it didn't take off. I'm sure a lot of people never gave it a chance either. And plus, $1. I mean, that's pretty expensive for a book like that. And Roger mentioned this is basically 2.5, 3 books that you could get. So, and once again, back then it was still kind of a children's market a lot. The hardcore collector probably didn't make up very much of the overall sales of, well, this series it probably did, but of books. So, and this really wasn't geared toward kids at all. So, I don't know. Heck, the title itself might have scared some parents away. No, Timmy, you can't have that. Doomsday Tales, there's going to be death and destruction in there. We can't have that. Plus, there's a posterior on the cover there. We don't like the looks of that there, Timmy. So, kudos to them for trying something a little different. I just don't know if it was the wisest decision. Make it 4 stories, 5 stories, whatever. You don't need 8. It's way too big. And some of these stories cry out for a little more page time, because they were good. The ones that were good. And some of them were just filler stories too. And, any sci-fi and anthology book or any anthology book period is going to be like that. There's always going to be some filler stuff that doesn't really muster up or meet snuff. So I'm going to give this a 3.5. It's above average, and it was definitely something different and new and definitely paved the way for some stuff in the future. I'm just not sure. Just thinking from a business standpoint, it was too sound a decision. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with 3.5.
I didn't even consider that much of the business standpoint. You make a good point there. And honestly, you were right, because this didn't last. It lasted about a year, I think, or so, and then went back to Star Wars. So.
And this might have predated Alien. I can't remember, because that kind of also brought in a resurgence of wacky, different sci-fi that wasn't just big space battles.
Yeah, I think they came out about the same time. 1979 was Alien as well, but it came after Star Wars, which again had sci-fi elements, I suppose, but it's not true sci-fi. Good stuff, Gino. And thank you for that business part. You're probably right there. I kind of just didn't even consider that much. I was just so and I was so entranced by actually seeing that science fiction barbell that I didn't care. I just wanted to read.
And not to be denigrating to science fiction fans, but I'd say well over half of them don't ever read science fiction. They like to watch science fiction things, serials and movies and stuff, but they probably never picked up a science fiction novel. They don't know who Clark is and all that. Yeah. So you're not gonna you're not gonna pull those guys in either. It's I'm not gonna read this. I'll just wait till something comes on TV.
Yeah. Good point about Arthur C. Clarke. Good stuff. Really hardcore science fiction. Arthur C. Clarke really did his research. DS. Okay. It's not that I'm unimpressed by Star Wars. It's just I don't think that you can consider that science fiction. That's all I'm saying. I think they're entertaining movies. Interesting movies, but when they go categorize them as science fiction, I'm like, no, not even close. That's my point.
What they should have called Star Wars is Joseph Campbell the movie is what they should have called it, because that's all it was. They just threw the spaceship setting on it,
Yep. Yeah, and that's pretty much what the kind of the force means, right? That they grow and they get more awareness, and they sort of find out more about what the universe is about. So very Buddhist kind of stuff, but again, not science fiction in my estimation, not even close. But again, I am on an island on that, and I'm not going to get into it anymore, because we could argue this all night long.
Yeah, that's when the sabers really come out, man. You start saying things like that. Yeah.
All right, now this time, that last time that I said that was all dicta, that was all stricken from the record. Now we want your concept grade. Is this something which is, like I'm saying? Was it maybe not a good business decision, but again, they at least they put something out there that hadn't been tried. Are you going to give them an A for effort? Or is this something that you think was actually a really, really groundbreaking and novel idea for the time? Let us know what you think. Genome is shaming Roger for his original purchase.
No, I'm just putting myself in the boardroom,
No. Yeah, I didn't think it as such. Yeah,
I don't think Shooter would let that out the door. Not like that was.
No, probably not. No.
Because how practical he was. But
yeah, he wanted to sell. I mean, and that's why Marvel, like you said, I think was it you who mentioned it that this at the Bronze Age, Marvel really they crushed DC.
Oh, that was Kenny. Yeah.
Oh, Kenny. Okay, they crushed DC. I mean, that's why. I mean, we can get into this again. That's why Crisis was there. And that's why Marv Wolfman was moved over and Perez, and they rebooted Wonder Woman and all that kind of stuff, because they were just getting massacred by Marvel sales-wise. I think at some point they were like triple or close to it. So, no, I don't think triple. I think double. Yeah, I don't think triple.
Yeah, but and everything other than superhero comics in the Bronze Age, I think DC had the edge, like 84 was saying.
Mm.
And Raj, man, I could talk for 3 hours about post-crisis DC and how awesome it was. That was some really, really good stuff.
Agreed. Maybe we'll do a live stream on that one day, Unruly, and bring in a couple guys who might disagree with us, and then we'll go at it mano a mano.
I loved it all.
I'm with you. Again, if you and I, we lived it. We were there. We knew. It's we knew the confusion and the inability to sort of move on, to sort of come into the future that DC was trying to muddle its way through with ancient techniques. And they saw Marvel and they couldn't duplicate it. So they had to do that they had to narrow that universe. They had to make things matter again in the DC universe. And it worked to a great degree for a long time. All right.
Oh, and Kenny, your first score will be 3.5. Russ made that much earlier before he left, he said.
Okay.
3.5 for us. All right. All right. The next one I have is, I think, DS. Is that right, guys? I think DS has started the scoring other than Russ, right?
I'll look back. Where's Biggie at, man?
Biggie, I think he had to go to bed. Or he has another show. He's always popping in on shows. So. All right. So we'll put, Kenny, you ready?
I am.
Yeah, it looks like DS is first.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Dino. All right. So 3.5. 3.5, 3.5, 3, 4.5, 3 from the Canadian curmudgeon, 4, we love you, Dave, 4 from Scott Neely, 4 from the Gray Man, hey, how you doing, buddy, another alumnus, and 3.5 from Brett Bottomley. look at here. Hold on. I knew this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this was going to happen.
I'm fuming, he said.
He just fired up Zamboni. He's going to run that thing all over you, man.
Like we needed a whole lot to get a fire under Mr. Miracle anyway.
You're lucky you pulled that, in his absence, dude.
Oh, I've mentioned it before. And again, it's not that I don't like it. I just don't consider it science fiction. That's all. Hey, Superior, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you here. All right, Kenny.
Yeah, I've heard the cowboy and samurai analogy before a lot with Star Wars, like Jedis being samurais and guys like Solo being cowboys. 3.5 was the chat's concept.
All right. Not bad. Not bad. Actually, that's a bit better than I thought the chat would get. So I'm okay with it. All right. So we are already 2 hours in. So we're just going to ramp it up, and then we're going to go to Genome so he can do his. Well, next time we're not going to do a comic. Okay. So stay tuned. All right. So that you can see this movie for 2 weeks. And remember, I'm going to leave the details to the giveaway in the description below. It's right at the beginning of this video. So if you came in late, wait till it's over and see the beginning of this video to see about the giveaway. All right. But overall, real quick, let's give a quick summation of our overall grades, go to Genome, and then we get out of here. I think we started with Kenny, right?
Sure.
So let's start with Kenny again for the overall.
Let's do it. Overall, the cover was the weakest point for me. I gave that a dose. The artwork, high-level stuff. The writing, the stuff that was good was really good. The stuff that was subpar was meh, but it wasn't garbage. So good, above average for the writing, and the concept was good stuff. Overall, this is going to get, I don't want to give it it's not 4 worthy, and I think 3 is even being a little harder on it. We got to land this baby right at a 3.5 overall.
Very nice, sir. Very, very nice. Mr. Simian, could you give us your encapsulation of this particular issue?
Once again, I'm going to be a herd animal. That's exactly the score I would give it, as a 3.5.
Anything stand out and anything like really detract?
What Gore pointed this out in the chat earlier. There was plenty of science fiction and short stories on the stands in comic form. You know, you had your Warren magazines. Heavy Metal came out that year. Epic wasn't far behind, but those weren't on the rack. You know, you had to go. Those were on the. They weren't on a spinner rack. You had to hunt them down.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as far as comics go, the execution. I'm just going to have to stick with 3.5.
Okay, fair, excellent, very fair, very fair. All right, Gino, give us your summation, please.
Alrighty. Well, much like my contemporary, Mr. Kenny, I'm going to give this one a 2 for the cover. It was pretty lame. I mean, it was okay. I didn't like it. Definitely the weakest part. And for the story, I gave, once again, grain of salt. I only read the first one because I was so behind here. That one I liked. And from what it sounds like, kind of a mixed bag from everybody else. I'm going to give it a 3.5 on the story I wrote, but that one's a little flexible. Story that was written on, the one I read. Interior art, 4.5, freaking incredible art in there. A couple of my favorite artists are in this book and some of their earlier stuff, you know, just Giordano and freaking Oparo, man. I just love it. And like I said, you know, the art's strong when your weakest link is Steve Ditko, right? So 4.5 for the art. See, concept. I gave it 3.5. I think it was a cool concept for the science fiction fan, and it was a good way to let your writers kind of have a free form kind of series to work on. But I don't think it was too strong as a business stamp idea. I think it was bloated, a little bit bloated, actually a lot bloated, and it just could use some more tuning and make it a 75 center or something. It might have sold better, but 3.5, better than average. It seems a little bit of a misstep. So overall, this one is a 3.5. I think it's a real fair grade for this book. It's better than average, much better than average, basically stories and art, and just fun book. I mean, what more can you say? Too bad it didn't keep going, right?
Yeah, too bad indeed. Too bad indeed. All right, all right. I'll go quick here. Cover, I thought it was a bit better. I think you guys were being a bit harsh on it. The monster really kind of bothered me, right? But I thought the rest, although not great, was a little better than average. It definitely had that science fiction-y feel to it. And I thought the figures were well done. And again, you know, the trade dress I thought was, you know, kind of eye-catching and different for the time. So I gave it a 3. The story, this was the weakest part of the issue, I'm afraid. There were really good stories and there were really bad stories. And when you put them all together, blend them up, and you spit them out, it was just an average story grade, serviceable, shall we say, as for Genome, 2.5. The art, just absolutely stupendous. The Ditko was, again, really weak. But the Giordano, let me tell you, if you're on the fence about getting this comic, just for the Giordano art in that story, it is worth it. If you can get this for $5 or $6 or $10, it is worth it. It is incredible. I was just shocked how good that was. The concept, again, Homer score, 4.5. Big sci-fi fan. I was just, I was a man just, you know, desiccated in a desert for sci-fi. So when I found this, and like Unruly said, I didn't really have access to those newsstands. My parents didn't really let me get those things. So I had to settle for stuff like this, which I thought was, at the time, I thought it was stupendous. Looking back at it, the stories were very weak, but I thought the concept at the time really grabbed me, 4.5. Overall, guys, I got to agree with you. I thought it was going to be a 4, but the weak stories, just I can't do it. I can't do it a 4 with the story. I give a little more credence to, you know, to the story elements than anything else. I'm a reader of the comic. It has to impress me on an intellectual level. It just was there, kind of, because of so many bad stories. The good ones were real good, but the bad ones were pretty bad. So I agree with all of you. 3.5.
Look at that. Consensus. That's what you call consensus.
And the actual overall chat score was 3.25. So
Wow.
I guess we round that up to 3.5 as well, right?
Yeah,
so,
we do. Man, I tell you, it's, it's a hive mind tonight. Okay. Pretty good.
to miss
Great show,
potential.
guys. I'm gonna move it over to Genome, and then I'll come back for final thoughts from all of you, and then we're gonna rock and roll out of here. Get some sleep, get some dinner, kiss the girlfriend, the wife, the significant other, the dog, Loki, whatever. And and again, we'll meet in 2 weeks with the. A little bit before, I'm going to send out I'll talk to you guys on Instagram, and I'll send out so that we can get together and see who's going to get this amazing prize package of being here with us and getting a whole bunch of comics. So Gino, and then we're going to of course thank the chat as well. What's going up in a fortnight from tonight?
Okay, we have some goodness. It's been a while, so we've done a movie review. So I think it was high time to do that. And since the MCU movies are all the rage, let's go back and take a look at actually the first one. This is was it either 89 or 91? I forget which year it was. This came out. I remember I was in high school, and this is the first take on our favorite vigilante in silver screen. We're talking about none other than the Punisher, with the amazing thespian Dolph Lundgren himself taking up the lead role. So we're gonna review it, man. He's judge, jury, and executioner, and he don't play with skulls either. So can't wait to review it. I have not seen this movie since I was in high school, so I used to have it on VHS. I was a little bit bloodthirsty back then, so I remember really enjoying it, but I'm sure it was awful. But we'll be the judge of that now. So we're going to take a look at it with 2020 eyes and see if it holds up. So that's going to be the movie. Excellent.
Yeah, I haven't seen that since the Blockbuster days.
It's been a while. They used to have in fact, I wanted to get it. Our Blockbuster had a full-size one that stood up there.
Yep, I remember that. It's going to be a bloodbath in 2 weeks, guys.
In more ways than one, probably.
And we're going to probably have Mr. Miracle here, so. But Unruly, watch it if you can, just in case.
Well, McFarlane wasn't in it, so maybe it has a chance. So.
Well, I don't know. Again, to each his own, right? But all right, so that's it, guys. I'm going to go around. Everybody say your goodbyes. Let us know what's going on with you for this coming week or whatever. And then I'll wrap it up, and we can go on our way. Mr. Unruly.
I got nothing. I'm not really a YouTuber.
Yeah, right. I've seen you on a whole bunch of shows these past 2 weeks. You were on that lame or whatever drawing game. Lame or Tame, right? Was it? No. Frame. Lame or Frame. Wasn't that you?
No, sir. I couldn't draw with both eyes open and, a talented human being guiding my hand.
I saw you on somebody's show, though, this week, this past week.
I was on JP. We reviewed the second and third trade of Fables.
That was it. That was it. Okay, that was it. Yeah. And again, if you guys want a heck of a guest, hit up Unruly. The man's knowledge, as you can tell from this show, is off the charts. All right.
He's like the famous Hollywood Squares guest host or guest panelist.
I'll have Unruly for 50. All right, Genome, what's going on with you, sir? What are you reviewing? What are you standing up? What are you singing? What are you constructing? What are you doing?
That's right. You heard me singing earlier. Hope we don't get a copyright strike for that one. But so actually, it would be kind of funny if they catch it if it was that good. But channel is more of the same, and by that I mean lots of different variety coming up. I am still chugging away through the Nightmare on Elm Street series. I am going to be reviewing. Dramatic pause. Freddy's Dead. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6 will be my next one. Hopefully out next week. I have to, gird my loins and quaff some very stiff cherry Pepsi or something to try to get through the movie because I haven't seen it in 20 years plus. But I'm going to try to get through it and put out a decent review for you. I just did Roger's requested video last week, reviewing a song by Sade. There, Is It a Crime? So that is up there for your listening and viewing pleasure. I work on all mediums. What else? Interviews, lots of definite maybes, but nothing locked in. So I won't even mention names till then. Still got my Star Trek reviews. I got to put out another one. It's been a little while since the last one. It's just so hard to find the time. And then, I actually had a viewer requested movie. I'll be getting to that one. That'll be a surprise. I'll be reviewing that one probably after I get done with the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But other than that, it's more of the same. Oh, I still have to do my cover of the week, but I haven't done it yet. So bad. I've been entering contests this week. So that's about it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because I don't think you've done a cover in like 2 weeks.
It might have been.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I was like, hey,
the Dinosaur Rex.
Oh, that's right.
It wasn't that long ago, was it? That was Dinosaur Rex right there. Beautiful covers, by the way.
Yeah,
that's true.
But oh, sorry. You can put it back. But yeah, so that's what's going on.
All right, thanks, buddy. I mean, again, I have the links to all our channels below. If you haven't seen Genome's reviews, they are honestly the best on YouTube, and I've seen a lot of them. Okay. The man misses nothing except the things that I point out, right? So.
Gore Vidal is watching Farscape. That was a great little series. Sometimes it went a little far off into wacky land every now and then for its own good, but I love that series. That was a fun one.
Yeah, great characters in that one too.
Yeah, Ben Browder. Yeah.
All right, Kenny, what's going on, buddy?
Well, I have tomorrow night I have a championship to defend on Tony Sanders' The Hunt cover challenge, where all the marbles are gonna go for who can present the best Father's themed cover.
Wow.
And I have a mystery opponent. I don't even know who it is. So I take all comers. So that's going down tomorrow. As is probably some Power Hour action. And I might even, I don't know. I know our boy Hero and the Kid, young man Will. I'm going to try to join him, but I know he has a fun video planned for tomorrow because he's got like an unboxing of a bunch of, like, I think he said 5 pounds of books. Wow. So if I'm there or not, but I think I will, make sure you tune into him. And, fear not, all you Unruly Simian fans, man. I'm working on it, y'all. We got a little something in the pipeline. It's on the precipice of, hitting the airwaves. And Unruly, I just secured that, that third guest person that we were discussing. It's, it's locked in, man. We're going to have electrifying, perhaps thought-provoking show.
All right.
The way, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm working on it, man. I'm pulling levers. I'm making phone calls. I'm doing everything I can to get Unruly Simian out there more to the people.
Yeah. I'm all about that. Any show I see with Simian on there, I watch because I know they've got incredible perspective, Okay. Also, I think on Tuesday, we're on Jay Hood's channel. I think Kenny, you and I are on there for we have to help him pick up what he's going to put on his wall.
Yeah, pick out what's going to be his wall books. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Yeah. I also got something else cooking with Jay Hood, but that's down the line.
Thanks.
All right. So with myself, I'm not going to put myself big. I'm tired of doing that. You guys know the score. The roundup was today. 9 contests were out there today. Let me tell you, my vision was getting blurry seeing all the videos I had to see this week. It was really something. But again, try to, don't watch the roundup, fine. But let's support these guys that do the contest because they go through a lot of trouble and they are celebrating with us. And I think that, the least we could do is at least leave a comment if it's a comment entry, and help them, let them know, hey, we care, right? On Tuesday, I usually have a special video out. I'm doing the Master of Kung Fu, Origins, History, and all appearances in the Bronze Age. If you're at all interested in that, go watch my video last Tuesday. And I'm going to have the second installment this Tuesday. And the last installment, I'm doing all the crossovers and all his magazine appearances. So,
Dude, when he did that video, I actually can close my eyes and put myself right in the book, man. I just loved hearing it the way you presented it. That was awesome. Like, because I've never read the series before, but I just felt like I had read the series after I watched your video. That's how immersive it was. It was really good.
thank you, buddy. Thank you. I sometimes when you're really passionate about something, it just comes out. It just sort of creates its own story. And as I kept thinking about it, I was like, I want to do this for me, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So thank you. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here, guys, and let's this incredible chat go home. We still got 12 here. They've been on point the whole time here.
You latecomers, there's a new contest on the scene, and prize being ending up on this very panel, perhaps, and winning some Graders Note swag. So we need you to do a Graders Note submission of a book. Just a real quick, you know how we do it. Grade it 1 through 5.
Yep.
Do a little contest entry. Metarod will remind you. I'll remind you. You got 2 weeks, brother.
Yeah, I'm going to have it on the next roundup, obviously. So you'll get the lowdown there, but I'm going to put it in the description here. So when this is over, make your video. Okay. Just let me know below where it is. I'm going to put it in my watch later list. And I'm going to send it off to these guys in about 10 or 12 days. We're going to come together and boom. Machine Man #1. Holy smokes.
That's a good set, right?
Get them to spread.
I like it. And you get to choose. I have a prize pack. Genome has one. I think
I'll have
one. I think Mr. Miracle has one too. So you get to pick, right? Whichever one you want. Okay. You pick mine. You're going to get a lot of good reading, but maybe not all the original things. Okay. So again, look at this video. Tomorrow, I'm going to go to bed. I'm tired. So tomorrow, I'm going to put in the description. I want to see some entries in there because you want to be on here, and you want to take on the likes of Mr. Miracle, Genome, and ComicHead. Mano a mano, head to head. Give them your best shot. Let them know that you need to be on this panel. I want to see the passion come out in those videos. All right.
Excellent.
Mr. Simian, you are a gentleman and a scholar as always. Thank you for pulling our fat out of the fire.
Best pinch hitter in the game.
You are like the Lord himself, and that pulled Daniel through the lion's den and the fire pit. You are just the rescuer of rescuers. You are the Saint Bernard and the saints of YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you for all that you are.
I'm always going to picture him with that freaking keg around his neck now. Huh?
And ComicHead, Kenny, what can I say? You are the smoothest. You are one of those people that whenever a video comes on for Kenny, it's like the masses come in there and sort of say, "There's just a big Kenny hug."
No.
Because they just come and they flock and they gravitate to you. You are like the Jupiter here. You're the Jupiter of the YouTube. All satellites gravitate towards you.
Big and gassy. Yeah,
that is an outlandish claim, but thank you for buttering my bread like that. You're the man, dude.
I love you, buddy. I love you all very much. And Genome, what can I say? You are my brother in so many different ways. You're the Renaissance man of YouTube. Everything you do is quality. It's well thought out. It's just, it's one of those things where if people don't understand, where you're coming from, you are not just a comic book channel. You are not just a review channel. You are a man of so many different depths and so many different talents that it can't be contained in one genre. And I see that in every one of them. And to have a man that has that much talent and that much diversity is a rare treat and a rare trait to have nowadays. So thank you for all you do, sir. You are a true gift to this community.
Thank you very much, sir. It's
Amen to
very
that.
kind of you to say.
All right, everybody, go to bed, get something to eat, give a kiss to whatever it is that's near you that you love. Everybody, be blessed and be back, and we'll see you a fortnight from tonight.